Welcome to Fight News Now Extra. I'm John Pollock. Welcome to the show. Today we're going to be running through the UFC's return to Australia this past weekend, featuring Stipe Miocic and Mark Hunt in the night's main event. We'll chat about the highs and lows from the card down under with John Ramdeen and Robin Black coming up on Fight News Now Extra. Stipe Miocic ended up setting a new record for strikes landed in a 5-round UFC fight, connecting with 361 strikes throughout the 4+ round fight he had with Mark Hunt. Hunt was slow and susceptible throughout the fight to the takedowns of Miocic, who would constantly put Hunt up against the cage and connect with unanswered strikes. There was harsh criticism for how long official John Sharp allowed the fight to go before finally stopping the bout in the 5th round as Miocic improves to 13-2. Robert Whittaker met Brad Tavares on the card in middleweight action in Whittaker's second fight since moving up from welterweight. He didn't need much time, landing a pair of perfectly placed left hooks to place Tavares on the mat and finish him with follow-up strikes for the knockout victory at 44 seconds of the opening frame, and has now won 3 straight fights. And Metamora 6 went down on Saturday night, an event that both media and fans were not allowed to attend as the group continues to rewrite their version of the promotional handbook. The main event featured Josh Barnett taking on late replacement Hiron Gracie. The submission match lasted about 13 minutes, where Barnett was able to take Gracie down to the mat, working on top, locking in a toe hold for the submission victory and secure his second victory at Metamoris. This coming Saturday morning, it's an early one as we have a pre-fight show coming at you at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, getting you set for the UFC's debut card in the Philippines, with the prelims kicking off on Fight Network at 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. We're here with John Ramdeen and Robin Black coming off the UFC's return to Australia on Saturday, which was a pretty entertaining show and left me with just a bad taste in my mouth with that main event. I can't remember too many cards where I left with the emotion of anger. That's very rare that you leave a fight card with, but that main event was it for me. I just thought it was horrible. Even the next day, I was really stunned. And there was a lot of outrage over this, not just from people in the fight community, not just fighters. There were even people, let's not forget that in Australia, in Western Australia, it's not even legalized yet. And that was absolutely ammunition of people saying, this is supposed to be legalized. This man who takes 361 strikes. For people that don't follow mixed martial arts, it's a pretty brutal display if you're just watching that fight in the vacuum.
True, but at the same time, I think any type of conflict inside of the cage is going to tick those people off. I know boxing fans that are like, oh, I don't watch that MMA stuff. Those guys kick each other in the head. Yeah, boxing, they repeatedly punch them in the head over and over and over again. You can drop a guy throughout the fight numerous times. So it's just, it comes down to your education and if you're interested in supporting this stuff.
However, because most sanctioned boxing bouts, a guy that's just boom, boom, nothing coming back, it's going to get waved off.
That is true.
And typically, that's going to happen in mixed martial arts as well. This was an outlier, and I think it should be, a spotlight should be on this, that this was wrong. This was a terribly officiated bout, and it shouldn't be applauded in any way.
I agree. And, you know, hey, knowing something and seeing something are different things. I know that football is more damaging than mixed martial arts. I think the science has shown that. The research has shown that. The biology, it is harder on you than MMA. But it doesn't look as shocking as seeing a guy on top of another guy doing that. And I was shocked that some people didn't think that was, they were like, the ref did a great job. The ref did not do a great job. As a fighter in the back, they come back to you and they explain, our #1 priority is to protect you from damage. If you are no longer able, if you've either taken too much or you're unable to protect yourself, I, the ref, will stop this fight. They tell you what they expect from you, and then you walk out there with the knowledge that you can do battle-free fight, with the knowledge that if it gets too bad, there's a third man in there to protect you. That guy let Mark Hunt down, and I agree with you, John. I'm looking at it from the perspective of the fighters because that's how I tend to look at fighting. But you're right. If you were just somebody in you know, the far coast of Australia and you watch that, you've never seen fighting before, everything you've heard about it just became true.
But at the same time, yes, the referee should be to blame here, but the corner of Mark Hunt should be to blame, as well as the doctor sitting ringside, because the fact is that he took too much punishment, and somebody, if it wasn't the official, it should have been his teammates that stepped in.
Nobody had the balls. That was the problem, because you saw the doctor go over, and the doctor pulled the ref over, and he's like, hey, man, I don't know what they were saying, but doctors rarely talk to refs and say, by the way, this is on the border of what me medically will do, but don't you think you should? That's what was implied to me. And yeah, the corners, I mean, yes, You know, some fighters tell their corner under no circumstances ever. But I don't know, man.
You have to look at the long-term damage, and it's like, okay, I understand in certain circumstances, but this is not one of those circumstances.
Yeah, and I mean,
it's also damage that, you know, it's not going to be an immediate effect of a fight like that. But for Mark Hunt, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road.
The argument would be, this is no matter what happens, the guys go through such rigorous training in the training room with sparring and this and that, that this
no
could
one's
happen
saying
no matter
you're coming
what.
out of this unscathed, which to me is more of an argument why you should be protecting fighters. They're already incurring so much. You're never going to protect fighters from being hurt in a fight, but you're supposed to be minimalizing damage long term. I mean, John McCarthy talked about this story last week because he's working a lot with Frank Trigg, who's now officiating fights, and getting out of the mindset of watching a fight as a fighter and watching as a referee. It's very different. And they were looking back at the Robbie Lawler-Frank Trigg fight, and Lawler just delivering these blows, and Frank tells John McCarthy, that fight changed me. And I think you're going to see a very similar conclusion when Mark Hunt looks back at this fight 10 years down the road.
Yeah, and that's a whole other conversation. I mean, we watch this stuff. We love it. We love the entertainment of it. And the fighters themselves love doing it. This is what they want to pursue. But there is always that. You can't forget it. When we go to a live show, I feel the same experience every single time. I'll go to a live show. It's exciting to see the cage. I feel it. I wish I was in there. I feel for my friends that are fighting. And then they come. I see the ambulance come back, and they roll in that thing. And I've ridden out on that thing. And they roll in where they're going to strap some guys down that are hurt. And you are reminded, this is a very dangerous thing. Yeah, the fighters want to be there. Yes, we love it. But it's a scary and dangerous thing.
One other small thing from the show as well was Sam Alvey. He did his post-fight speech. It was a great call-out challenging Elias Theodorou. But also when he mentioned Reebok, and it was impossible to ignore the boos. And interesting of how Reebok is being accepted by mixed martial arts fans, many of whom are very educated and are aware of what this Reebok deal is meaning for a lot of fighters, and how you feel if you're Reebok and getting that. It was one reaction, but it was hard to ignore.
Now, apparently Scott Coker says that he has just been slammed by phone calls from fighters. He said, the way it's been explained to me is that a lot of these fighters, because of the new Reebok deal, are losing upwards of $150,000 over the course of a year. If a guy can fight 3 or 4 times a year and you can manage to get yourself $40,000 or $50,000 worth of sponsorships like we've seen in the past, these fighters don't have that luxury anymore. So a lot of fighters want to jump on the Bellator bandwagon, so to speak. And he's like, okay, I'm not here to talk to anybody unless you're a free agent.
There will be no tampering
that's right.
by Bellator. He is Robin Black, John Ramdy, and I'm John Pollock. Stay tuned for more Fight News Now Extra.